Story 1. My best friend killed my son and fiancé 13 years ago. I haven't felt a genuinely happy moment since then. Story 2. Chronic pain is challenging. Never take your health for granted. You do not realize how important it is until it is gone, and it can happen to anyone. Additionally, having a difficult family situation can be a challenging combination. Story 3. Social media has consumed a lot of my time and negatively impacted my mental health, but I am still addicted. I am trying to transition to reading books and magazines to stay informed. Story 4. My dad passed away, and my mom has changed. She was my best friend, and I don't even feel like I know her anymore. It's been years, and I don't think she is coming back. Story 5. This may sound trivial, my perfectionism. I wish I could be okay with anything without having to analyze it. Story 6. Car accident. I wasn't left with physical injuries, so people think I am very strange. I am just different now, and I do not remember who I was before it. Story 7. I left the workforce to become a stay-at-home mom. I had worked full-time while raising my first child, but when he turned 14, I had my second. After struggling with postpartum depression and a partner who refused to share any of the responsibility, I made the decision to stay home. I simply could not work full-time and solely care for both of my children who were in different stages, while managing all domestic responsibilities in the frame of mind I was in. There was zero support. I absolutely adore my sons and cherish the chance to be there for my youngest. I just wish I hadn't been so impulsive. Now, 15 years later, at 50 years old, I'm struggling. The isolation has made my social anxiety almost unbearable. I can't find a job that would allow me to truly support myself and my children if I ever needed to. I have no friends. Somewhere along the way, I set the tone for being a submissive doormat. I took on everything, trying to earn my keep out of guilt for not working, and in doing so, I've created a monster. I was once a fiercely independent single mother to my oldest, and I was proud of how I navigated life with the cards I was dealt. Now, I'm ashamed that my oldest has to see me like this, and this is all my youngest knows. I feel completely lost. Story 8. I learned that my ex was a serial child sexual predator, and I reported him to law enforcement. He also assaulted me and other women and was abusive. I fear every day that he or his family will come after me when the investigation concludes, and I hope they will arrest him for all the crimes he committed. Story 9. My ex-wife and I were married for 23 years. I loved her unconditionally. During our first lockdown in the United Kingdom, I found out she was cheating. I walked away and divorced her. This has affected me deeply. 5 years later, I still can't face getting into another relationship. Story 10. Joining the Army. Before I joined, I was a straight-A college student on track to graduate with a double major in political science and communication, along with a minor in environmental science. I was involved in a sorority, led the Model United Nations for the state, was president of the Democratic Organization, and volunteered with numerous groups. I had aspirations of running for political office and attending law school, so I thought gaining military experience would be beneficial. Basic training and advanced individual training were challenging and made it difficult for me to concentrate. I struggled to focus and obey any civilian authority. My self-worth became tied to physical fitness and weight. I started failing classes and ultimately dropped out. My college roommate was killed in Afghanistan, and over the next few years, I attended 21 funerals. Story 11. When my second husband divorced me, it ruined me financially. I have spent the last 10 years taking out loans and cashing out a pension. I have experienced crippling depression and anxiety. I ended up with serious health problems, including breast cancer, fallen arches, and now osteoarthritis. I am about to stop working because of the pain, all because he wanted to drink, use drugs, and pursue other women. He cannot handle his alcohol. Story 12. Amphetamines. There is no greater high than satisfying your own unrealistic expectations. Amphetamines turn you into a machine, and I was so happy to finally enjoy my full potential, to see in myself what everyone else did. So I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I always needed more because I had to be better, and that's what I was addicted to. At the height of my addiction, I was taking pills 3 times a day just to function, and I was buying in bulk 100 to 200 pills at $2 each. I was hallucinating from lack of sleep. My psychotic disorder went into overdrive, and I was getting paranoid. To make matters worse, COVID started. It all came to a head when I finally had a meltdown, came to in an ambulance wearing only my pajamas, and the police were asking me questions about my mental state. They asked me if I had suicidal thoughts, and I just laughed hysterically, which is a very normal reaction to that question. Took me a few months to quit because I still had a stash. I should have thrown it away, but it's not that easy when you're in the thick of it. Next November will mark 5 years since I snorted a line from the bottom of the bag in my stash, the last time I took amphetamines. I still miss that high every day. I miss feeling proud of my work. I miss feeling smart and capable. I miss seeing what my friends, teachers, and parents saw in me. I've never recovered from knowing how that felt, and I don't know if I ever will. The withdrawals were pretty bad, but it's honestly not comparable to the pain of disappointment I now feel practically daily. That said, I don't miss it enough to forget the cost it came with. I've done a lot of drugs in my life, and I don't think my mind can take much more. Story 13. Misdiagnosed sleep apnea. Now that it has been correctly identified and treated, it is a whole new life. I am no longer chronically tired. Story 14. Not being allowed to attend school when I was younger made it challenging as an adult to pursue further education, which requires significant financial resources. However, without a high school diploma, earning potential is limited. Story 15. Parental abuse ruined my childhood, harmed my mental health, and made me feel suicidal. Now, in my late 20s, I still find it difficult to build relationships. The fear of being abused never goes away. Story 16. My youngest sister took my home business and evicted me from the house that the business purchased. She put me and my 3 young children out on the streets. Took me 2 years to recover from the physical loss. I am not sure if I will ever regain my previous view of people. I no longer trust others. Story 17. A friend called me ugly, stupid, and poor when I was very young. It shaped my self-esteem for years to come. Story 18. Heroin. I tried it for the first time on Thanksgiving and was addicted by Christmas. I struggled to stay sober from the first time I went into rehabilitation in March of the following year until I found Suboxone. That period lasted 25 years, and my addiction ruined everything that was important to me. The good news is that I have been able to rebuild my life, so now, at 60, I have everything I could have ever wanted and more. However, there are many losses. Suboxone is a miracle drug. Story 19. I broke up with my girlfriend and moved to another country. It had nothing to do with her. I just convinced myself that I wasn't experiencing my 20s correctly if I didn't leave. It was the worst decision I ever made. I spent the entire time missing her. And she was so hurt that even when I shortened my trip and returned, she didn't want to get back together. That was 10 years ago, and I still miss her every day. Admittedly, there is a certain kind of freedom that comes with having nothing to lose, and I have done fairly well for myself as a result of that attitude toward life. But I would trade it all to go back to the day I got on that plane and turn around. Story 20. Not looking after my teeth when I was younger resulted in countless fillings and 2 root canals, causing me so much pain and costing thousands of dollars. I'm not even 20 yet. To any 12 to 17-year-olds with braces out there, it doesn't matter if it's the only thing you do daily. Brush your teeth and do it properly. Story 21. Being bullied and sexually abused as a child caused self-hatred and self-destructive behavior that nearly ruined my life until I went to therapy. Now, I am a social worker and therapist, helping to protect and heal others who have gone through similar experiences. Story 22. Losing my mother as a teenage girl was incredibly challenging. I remember how blank I felt. What was the point of living? I pushed those feelings out of my mind. I ride past her grave almost every day with 2 of my siblings. Story 23. Experiencing the high from drugs made me realize that nothing can compare, but I can never use them again. Story 24. Insecurity made me feel inadequate and held me back from pursuing my dreams. Story 25. A bad friend can lead to low self-esteem and confidence. You realize the years you wasted with people who didn't care for you, which could have been spent forming relationships with those who do care. Story 26. Brain cancer has taken a lot from me, except my life for now. It has left me paralyzed and in pain every day. I put on a brave face for the people around me, but in reality, I am not okay. I dislike everything about my new life, and I can't share that with anyone. Story 27. I trusted my father when he said I shouldn't go to graduate school. He is in higher education, and I thought he knew what was best. This decision derailed my life forever. I tell myself that may not be true, that I can't know what life would have been like or what other opportunities could have arisen. Maybe it would have been a disaster. Perhaps I could have been hit by a truck my first week attending. There is no way to know whether things would have been better. I keep reminding myself. Story 28. When I was 10, I was shot in my right eye with a BB gun. I have had many surgeries, and it still looks like I am opening that eye underwater. I have persistent double vision. Additionally, my eye had become lazy, but I underwent a surgery to straighten it out again. It doesn't matter, though. My self-confidence has been shattered, and I fear every day that something will happen to my good eye and that I will go blind. I especially worry that I could get an eyelash in my good eye while driving. Story 29. I have experienced abuse my whole life and continue to do so. I don't know how to escape survival mode. Everyone feels like a threat, including family. Story 30. Being a victim of rape at age 12 for 6 months, losing my house in 2010, and experiencing the death of my adult child. Still working at 67, wondering what comes next. Story 31. My mom passed away in October 2022 when I was 17, and my 6-year-old husky had to be put down due to bladder cancer in March 2024. Story 32. Seeing my partner get hit by a car while he guided me in reversing his truck was traumatic. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder about 6 months later, but I haven't been able to pull myself out of this rut since the incident. Fortunately, he survived with serious injuries, but that image remains in my mind. Story 33. Marry the first attractive woman who expresses interest in you. Follow your instincts, as physical appearance is important, but the person who nurtures your heart and protects your vulnerabilities will always be better than someone who may look like an 8 or 9 out of 10 but has a poor attitude. Story 34. The election of Donald Trump. I changed careers to work for the federal government. After being laid off, my career is in shambles. The job market is challenging, and I have to start over as my entire industry is gone. I am unemployed and financially devastated. Story 35. Inflation and tariffs. Buying $100 worth of groceries feels like spending $25 nowadays. Story 36. Real estate insurance claim after hail damage. Housing inspector interested in purchasing the house that I bought first. Story 37. My parents are malignant narcissists. My wife cheated and broke my heart while trying to blame me for everything. Story 38. My father never once called me pretty, always pointing out my flaws and expecting better of me when I wasn't at my worst. He disrespected every woman I saw him with, forcing me to meet and be happy with new women in his life while my mother struggled after they broke up. I learned from my mother that he wanted her to abort me. I lived my whole life thinking that I can't ask for, expect, or want anything from a man because I will always end up disappointed. I can feel myself going from binge eating and depression to not eating enough, forcing myself to count every calorie, weighing and measuring every day. I never thought I was beautiful, and I don't believe I am now, nor will I ever be. No matter what man comes into my life and expresses how attracted he is to me, I won't ever believe it. I can't trust men at all. I'll never feel beautiful. I'll never feel like I'm good enough. Story 39. Menopause. Not that I want any more children. It is just every emotional and physical aspect that came with it. I miss my old self. Story 40. Mother, father, drugs, cigarettes, cannabis, lack of education to manage finances, excessive scrolling, and undiagnosed mental health issues are all connected. Story 41. Trump's first presidency destroyed my business, eroded my marriage, and completely ruined the course of my life. Then the same people who watched it happen voted for him again. Story 42. Late diagnosed autism. I am 44 and my life finally makes sense, but I wish I could redo my past with the knowledge I have now about how my brain works. I realize how I was navigating life without understanding my true self. Story 43. I was going to say alcohol, but it was actually my willpower to abstain from it. I have been sober for almost 6 years now. Story 44. Being too trusting and kind has caused me to be used and hurt for a long time, resulting in a broken heart. I am still learning how to stand up for myself. Story 45. Moving to Canada has been challenging. I became dependent on alcohol and have struggled with finances for the 8 years I've lived here. I've gained 30 kilograms, lost my sense of self, worsened my mental health, developed a fear of leaving my home, and missed out on many opportunities in life. I stayed as long as I did because of a relationship with someone who held me back and had no desire to leave the country. Now that I am free from that relationship, I am planning to leave this cold environment as soon as possible. Story 46. Avoid being deceitful, unreliable, and an overall unpleasant person like many others. Being a decent person often leads to being mistreated and unfairly blamed, which seems to be the current norm. Story 47. Moving was a significant experience for me. We moved twice when I was 12 and 14. Both times I had to find new friends. Now I am 22 and still do not have any. Story 48. Drugs were part of my life until they weren't. I continue to struggle with drinking occasionally, but I manage it well enough to be responsible. Story 49. Alcohol. The last time I had a fit and started kicking a random car because its parking didn't meet my expectations, I knew I would land myself in trouble someday, more than I already have. Story 50. Not knowing I had married a narcissist. What saved me was implementing no contact and hiring an attorney after discovering the truth. Story 51. Maybe taking birth control and not realizing how much that changes your body forever. Being around mentally ill individuals your whole life and not realizing it weakened your immune system until it was compromised. My life isn't ruined, but it has been very hard. And I know I'm not alone as a woman dealing with many reproductive and health issues due to constant childhood trauma and trying to take medication to manage my periods. Hugs to you all, and the fact that we have self-awareness means we can at least do something about what we are facing. Story 52. Chronic migraines have led to post-traumatic stress disorder from frequent hospital visits. I experience excruciating pain that most people do not understand. I have lost my job and health insurance, cannot afford necessary medications, and have been denied disability support. Life has become a constant struggle with pain. It seems the government wants me to remain silent and suffer. The lack of health care in the United States is a silent culling of the less fortunate. Story 53. I cannot leave my house. There is nothing I can do without worry. You don't realize how nice it is to be a side character nobody will remember until you can't be that anymore. It's something you can never escape, and I wish I had never come this far. It feels like a constant weight, pushing you down under everyone else's expectations while you're stuck in a zoo for them to watch. When your face is a brand, you are no longer a person. Story 54. Procrastination can lead to many negative outcomes. It often involves putting off actions and wasting time. I was recently diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder at 45. While this is not an excuse, it does provide some insight into my struggles. Numerous aspects of my life have been negatively impacted by my failure to take timely action. This includes pursuing a well-paying job, ending a relationship that was not working, managing overdue bills before they affected my credit, and handling difficult conversations. I have wasted many opportunities simply because I didn't act when I should have. Story 55. My husband was stationed in Clovis, New Mexico. I disliked that place intensely, and we were there for 10 years. It contributed significantly to my depression. Story 56. My sister's death, a difficult breakup, and a pandemic that took my job and my connections with friends. All happened in 1 year. Story 57. Chronic illness. Not entirely ruined, but that's only because I was fortunate to have a good disability insurance policy, a supportive husband, and a lot of family support. Story 58. My abusive ex ruined almost every relationship I had, put me thousands of dollars in debt, and essentially destroyed me mentally. Story 59. Chronic illness. I am in my early 20s, and 2 years ago, I was just a regular college student, enjoying life with partying, dating, and planning for the future. I was healthy, too. Now, I am in pain all the time. Basic tasks make me feel like I have just run a marathon. I cannot sleep, I am allergic to almost everything, so I cannot eat most foods, only about 15 ingredients, and I cannot really go outside. My skin looks awful, my hair is thinning, and I have lost so much weight that I look anorexic. I am finishing college, but for the rest of my life, the majority of every paycheck will be spent on medical bills and medicine. I am still mourning the life I envisioned for myself, and I think I will never fully accept what happened to me. Do not take your health for granted. The biggest cause of my health issues, besides genetics, was constant stress and overworking myself. Story 60. Health. My own healthcare calamity wiped out a decade's worth of higher education, my popularity as a professor, and on the eve of my tenure, I was fired for being too sick and put on medical leave. They told me to work it out with the union, and I didn't realize that I was working it out with the union. I couldn't work it out with lawyers. They fired me as soon as I requested mild accommodations, as we are allowed to do in the United States due to the Americans with Disabilities Act. My department neither confirmed nor denied my request. They simply locked me out of my classroom, claimed they gave me paid medical leave, and as soon as I was forced to leave campus because they wanted the old me back, I received the note that I was fired. I didn't understand that medical leave wasn't for getting better. It was for searching for a new job and moving. They used the Family and Medical Leave Act to get me off campus, provide me with a 1-year paid leave to find another job and relocate. I thought we were following the law, so I was using it to try and get better and believed my labor union would, of course, reinstate me. After all, my reasonable accommodations had never been addressed. Truthfully, my colleagues did not want a temporarily sick or disabled colleague. When they locked me out of my classes and forced me on family and medical leave against my wishes, my courses were assigned to other faculty. They were furious. Of course, they didn't want me back. I felt like an idiot. Getting one orthopedic surgery at 33, which went wrong, was a mistake. Getting another orthopedic surgery a year later at 34 was also a mistake. It went wrong. I was close to tenure. The failed surgeries led to the diagnosis of a rare congenital disease I didn't know I had but had been struggling with since. Due to mobility issues and my workplace not permitting my return, I was never able to clean out my office. I lost thousands in books and artwork. I lost framed photos and mementos from students. I lost all my original publications. No one would write me a positive letter, despite my being the department's golden child until I got sick. 10 years later, I am on disability and cannot afford to be well enough to teach. I was a promising teacher, published author, and trusted my colleagues too much. I never imagined they would deny tenure when I had exceeded all requirements many years prior. My advisor even admitted to this in writing. By the time I was well enough to involve the law, the statute of limitations had run out. Now, I spent an unthinkable amount of money on student loans, earned my PhD, secured my tenure-track job, and performed beautifully for 6 out of 7 years. By year 7, my health and mobility were deteriorating. I was always pushed to work harder. After they fired me, they used me as a cautionary tale for what happens when you don't maintain a work-life balance. Failure. Ironically, I fought for this when I advocated for just getting the days off for surgeries and physical therapy, and it was not good. I could tell I went from golden child to scapegoat overnight, but I couldn't believe a school that called us a family would do this. They did. They were that kind of family. Now I have no future in teaching or writing. Cannot pay back my loans. I am sicker. I have no money, and my partner was diagnosed with cancer in 2023. We are trying to save her on my disability. My life was ruined by the collapse of my own health. Otherwise, I would have a job and be someone in this world. My spouse would receive better care. We would have a safer, cleaner option for housing. We would be treated with respect. My relationship with my family would not have fractured. I have become the greatest disappointment to myself and to anyone who ever believed in me from the start, and I never bounced back. I feel too sick and weak to do so, and now I am a caregiver. I was so proud, but now I fear I will die in shame. I apologize for the bleakness, but I learned how to hate myself in this way. They taught me everything about what I am worth, and they were right. Story 61. I considered myself a victim, believing that everyone and everything was causing me pain. While some did, others did not. I used this mindset as an excuse to hurt others, be lazy, and eliminate everything from my life. Ultimately, I realized that I was the problem all along. Story 62. A person struggling with mental health and substance addiction caused a difficult year during my divorce. This experience significantly impacted my view of women until I met my fiancé, who helped restore my faith. Story 63. Chronic kidney disease, focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, kidney failure. I am thankful to have a transplanted kidney now. Brain tumor, pituitary. I was losing my vision, but thankfully it returned after brain surgery. Septic shock twice in 3 months. I am still recovering years later. Story 64. I struggled with addiction for 11 years in my 20s. I would love the opportunity to travel back in time and impart some wisdom to my younger self. Story 65. The girl used me to get over her ex, knowing that I really liked her. She prolonged the situation because she felt guilty about choosing someone else. Story 66. Getting my heart broken and being cheated on by my best friend and love of my life for 13 years has changed my perspective on the world. Story 67. Neuralink, health insurance companies, leadership, and government agencies that hired domestic terrorists. Story 68. Completely ruined, not a thing. I'm alive, all my appendages are attached and functional, and my family gets fed every night. I have a job that makes decent money. We are doing okay. On the other hand, my ex left me and our 3 children under 3 years old so she could move to California with her new boyfriend. We haven't seen her or received any financial support from her in 2 years. I'm pretty sure she is homeless and struggling with addiction now, and eventually, I'll probably have to tell my kids she died from an overdose. At least she is not here complicating our lives anymore. I offered to fly her back to her hometown so she could get clean, but she prefers her current life. Story 69. Taking a chance on someone my age turned out to be a mistake. That person was a walking red flag, and I'm glad the relationship lasted only 3 months. What a nut job. Story 70. I stopped dating a woman once I learned she had narcissistic personality disorder and filed a protection petition against her. In response, she had a few of her friends burglarize my apartment and steal nearly $12,000 worth of electronics, a $3,600 retro video game console collection, a $4,000 comic book collection, and a $3,200 Lego collection. Most importantly, they took my 2 notebooks full of handwritten notes containing 10 years of life experiences for my memoirs, which only she knew the location of. The police did nothing, the apartment manager did nothing, and none of the 12 different legal offices I contacted wanted to take the case. So, I am slowly rebuilding my life while battling severe depression. Story 71. Not having a normal family, being molested, and the emotional wall I have built around my state is simultaneously crumbling and self-mending. Story 72. Nothing. I don't let things ruin my life, especially things I can't control. I am better than that, and so are you. Story 73. Car and bike accident involving a 7-year-old. I have 3 herniated discs in my cervical spine. I have been experiencing chronic pain since I was 7 years old, and I am now 28. I am preparing for surgery and trying to survive each day. Story 74. It has affected every aspect of my social interactions and mental health. It has impaired my ability to think, to trust, to leave the home, and to continue living comfortably. No matter what I do, I don't feel invisible enough to feel safe when I leave the house. So I try not to. Story 75. I took a promotion that offered more money with the same nonprofit but as a separate entity. The organization I left was outstanding and professional, and I had everything organized in terms of operations and fundraising. I was the second in command at the branch, with many people above me at the corporate headquarters for the county. I wanted more responsibility and better pay, so I made the move without realizing how different things could be. I left to grow a smaller organization in a developing county. I remained second in command, but the branch and corporate structure were one and the same. I didn't expect this to be a significant issue, as I only saw growth and opportunities for both the organization and myself. I was wrong. I must admit I allowed my desire for more to cloud my judgment. As a newly married man starting a family, the temptation for more money influenced my decision. I believed I was hired to establish professional standards and enhance activity programming, drawing from my previous experience in San Diego. Although I made more money and was able to improve the organization's budget, fundraising, and fee-for-service operations, I was also responsible for handling community politics, an area where I had zero experience. I was so naive that I didn't even realize this would be part of my role. I was eager to develop programs such as childcare, youth sports, and parent-child camping, along with fitness initiatives. However, I was blindsided by the political negativity I encountered and was astonished by how the board operated at a deficit, failing to pay vendors and neglecting volunteer responsibilities. The board members who hired me all resigned in frustration due to the older members' inability to adapt to modern management expectations. I stayed for 7 years and was miserable. When I left, I found that the San Diego County YMCA had moved forward with new management, essentially leaving me behind because I had been trained by the previous administration. It felt as though I had left an excellent place, and they had found others to fill my role. Lessons learned. An increase in salary and responsibilities is not always beneficial. I was guilty of career missteps because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I overestimated my own knowledge. I can't excuse my lack of research, as there were no computers or the internet. Researching at that time was significantly more challenging than it is today. The greatest cost was to my retirement. If I had stayed, even with lower pay, my retirement would have been substantially greater. Within 3 years, the organization went bankrupt after I left, revealing questionable management practices. Not all promotions are beneficial. I should have learned this from my father, who was a physical education teacher and declined offers to become a school principal, because he knew his passion was in teaching and being outdoors with students. Reflecting on this makes me feel sad and foolish, but at 65, I hope my story will help others. My 3 adult daughters, all with graduate degrees, are thriving. This gives me hope. They know this story and hopefully will follow their grandfather's example, making better choices when they face similar crossroads in life. Story 76. I lost my brother when I was 16 years old. He was 17. I found him and I refused to give up on life. I want to make my parents as comfortable and happy as possible. Story 77. My parents didn't raise me properly. They imposed their rules on me, but when I left home, aside from having a job, I had no idea how to live independently and I didn't have many friends since I used to be an introvert. Story 78. Sharing DNA with parents who have mental health and substance abuse issues is essentially the experience of being born. Story 79. Being ignored by my family when I sought help for chronic pain, such as kidney stones and acute compartment syndrome, can lead to a loss of trust in others. Story 80. I was molested several times as a child when I was around 5 or 6 years old. Then, I was forced to live with this person for the next 15 years. During that time, he did many things to purposely ruin my life, which significantly impacted my mental well-being. Story 81. COVID-19 has resulted in interstitial lung disease, long COVID with severe fatigue, and possibly postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. My whole life has been turned upside down. Story 82. A cone biopsy. I have never been the same since. General anesthesia, lack of aftercare, returning to work too quickly, stress, and many other life events afterwards have led to depression, loss of sexual desire, and I am still at high risk for cervical cancer. I hate how I feel and I am trying to find the old me again. I wonder if that will ever happen. Story 83. I want to be a mom so badly, but I fell in love with a man who cannot have children due to childhood cancer. I worry about him constantly, but I love him so much that the pain I experience each month while wondering if I can ever have a child is worth it. Story 84. Poor decisions were my responsibility. As a sensitive child in a family that didn't understand, I felt misunderstood. Now, as an anxious adult with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, I often feel like I can't do anything right and struggle with feelings of inadequacy. Story 85. Alcohol. My father-in-law was planning to travel months before his planned departure date. He got drunk and crashed his four-wheeler. Now he's mentally disabled, and we're stuck taking care of him. Don't drink and drive. Story 86. Becoming a young carer. I was 10 or 11. I enjoyed ensuring my mom was okay, but not to the extent that I had no life. Story 87. An Army veteran treated for multiple traumatic brain injuries with severe post-traumatic stress disorder is medically retired. Now he only responds to the voices in his head. Story 88. Finding out that the man of my dreams is a diagnosed narcissist with traits of the dark triad has profoundly affected me. I don't think I will ever be the same. Story 89. I am 21 years old, almost 22. I landed my dream job, just got married, and moved in with the love of my life. I showed signs of what was to come since I was 4, but this was a major breakdown. 3 months into marital bliss, I experienced a psychotic break. I had to quit my job. I had to resign from my dream position. I couldn't handle driving anymore and couldn't leave my house without a chaperone. I became severely agoraphobic and intensely paranoid, seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling, and tasting things that weren't there. I experienced constant panic attacks. I was later diagnosed with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder, depressive type. Now, I am 7 years into treatment and doing much better, but that experience was extremely difficult. Story 90. I would say it all started when my grandma died because after that my mom abandoned me and many of my friends died. It never really got better, but I am 17 now and still here. Story 91. Not something but someone, my own daughter. I let her move back home, and she completely destroyed me emotionally, mentally, and financially. My home, which was supposed to go to her eventually, is now in jeopardy. I should have known better. Story 92. I found out my boyfriend cheated on me for 3 years, got another girl pregnant, and lied to me about it. Now I am single and dealing with a child that he denies. Story 93. In 6 years, my mom, dad, and husband passed away. I became an alcoholic, and my friends abandoned me. I have no other family, and I'm about done with this life. Story 94. I lost my girlfriend because she cheated on me with my then best friend, and she pretended it never happened. I had to find out by going through her phone. Trust your instincts. Story 95. I don't know if my life is ruined. Ruined is a very strong word. However, my ex affected many good opportunities one could have had. Like a fool in love, I chose her. Story 96. Honestly, this girl just broke my heart. It took me a long time to recover from the depression, which ruined a significant part of my life. I am doing much better now. I enjoy every day as it comes. Story 97. I visited my hometown to see family after a couple of years. I returned dealing with significant depression, multiple attempts at coping, and severe self-loathing. There was an incident near the end of my trip that tarnished my memories, making my sophomore year of high school particularly challenging. I enjoyed spending time with my small-town friends before I had to move and wish the family conflict that placed me in the middle had not occurred. Story 98. Not choosing a stable career path and hopping from one menial job to another, along with bullying and frequently moving as a child, has contributed to my commitment issues. Story 99. My ex-wife. The only good thing that came from knowing her is my 2 children. Too bad they act just like her. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.